We're here today with Abbie Newman from Mission Kids. And of course, it's Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And this is a topic that so many communities struggle to openly discuss. And one of the amazing things that children's advocacy centers provide is a collaborative approach to facilitating avenues to justice and healing for children and families impacted by violence. And the multidisciplinary teams that CACs work with children and families so that there isn't this retelling of experiences over and over again. And it reduces the ongoing and secondary trauma that so often occurs when folks finally access help. Abbie, I'd love for you to kick us off by giving us an overview of how these collaborative teams work and the services that they provide.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. Thanks so much, Ashley. So the best way to understand what we do in child sexual abuse and the response to child sexual abuse is to talk about what happens in communities that don't have a child advocacy center. In those communities, once abuse is reported, whether by the child or by a teacher or a parent, the child has to be interviewed, and they are interviewed up to 11 times by professionals, social workers, police, prosecutors, teachers, and all well-meaning, intentioned professionals, but they're not specifically trained in how to speak to children in age-appropriate, non-leading fashion to talk about something as traumatic as sexual abuse or serious physical abuse or witnessing violence or a homicide. So the child is re-traumatized each time they tell their story. And so by the time a case may eventually get to trial, that child may well shut down. And we actually had one parent years ago that was the impetus for beginning our center, who said to the prosecutor, "What happened to my child was awful. Your system is worse." That's a really telling statement. So what a child advocacy center does is that it makes the child like the hub of a wheel. And all of those professionals whose job it is to help kids, law enforcement, prosecution, social workers, victim advocates, a very important member of the team, medical and mental health specialists in the area of child sexual abuse, come instead to the child advocacy center. The child and the non-offending parent will come at times that are convenient to them. The child will give a forensic interview one-on-one with a very specially trained interviewer whose only job is to speak with children in age-appropriate, non-leading fashion. So that child can tell that story in their own words, in their own time. Law enforcement, prosecutor, and CYS will watch in live time from an adjoining room by closed circuit television. So they can get the nuances of a live interview, watching a child's facial reactions which is so important as they work through a case, but without the child feeling like they are being interrogated and bombarded. And so hopefully it's one interview recorded once, and it's much less traumatic. Then the child is referred for specialized medical and mental health services. An advocate will work with that child and family throughout the life of the case. Law enforcement and prosecutors will work with that child and move on their investigation. And so that's what happens. And we connect everybody and give them support as they move through the investigative process.
That's an amazing model to hear about. And Abbie, as we're talking about what happens, after the crime occurs, I'm thinking we should take a step back and look at some warning signs of human trafficking. What should community members really watch for?
Yeah, so kids can be very vulnerable. And we know that there are some kids that are more vulnerable than others, depending on where they are, what's going on in their family, what's going on with them. One of the things that actually makes a child more vulnerable to becoming a victim of human trafficking is having a prior history of child sexual abuse. The warning signs, it depends on who might be trafficking that child. And so remember, when we're talking about trafficking, we're talking about commercial exploitation of a child. We're talking about a child who is exchanging some type of sexual act in exchange for something of value. It could be money, but it could also be food. It could be shelter. So the warning signs are, is there a child that maybe has a past history? Well, that may not be known, because we know that a lot of victims of child sexual abuse never tell and never disclose, right? Well, one of the signs that a child has been abused is that they may be a runaway. Well, kids that are runaways are at a much higher risk of being trafficked. So if there is a child that you know is not living at home, is running away, are they couch surfing? How are they staying where they're staying? Are they exchanging living arrangements in exchange for sexual favors? Or you could have kids that are unfortunately being trafficked by somebody in their home or in their family or by a parent during the opioid crisis. Those red flags are that a child is still going to be attending school in those situations. They are hidden in plain sight in our communities. But is this child now having a big change in behavior? Are they going from being a really good student to not engaged? Are they sleeping during the day because maybe they're up a lot at night when they shouldn't be? Are they depressed? Another sign that might be there if they're being controlled by somebody that is more likely to be a pimp, or do they have any tattoos? I don't mean any tattoo. I mean like a dollar sign or a barcode that might be an indication of their being somebody's property. Are they in control of their own money? Are they free to come and go as they want to? You know, my kids were teenagers, it was kind of hard to pen them in. But you know, those are the warning signs that I can think of, but it's really, it can be difficult to tell. So everybody really needs to be aware and alert.
And you covered this a bit, I think, talking about human trafficking warning signs, but share with our folks if these warning signs differ from warning signs of child abuse, and you know, if they should be looking out for different things, or what to do, you know, if they suspect one or the other. Is it different? Is it the same? What do they do?
It can be the same. They can be, but child sexual abuse is often actually even vaguer than the signs that I just gave for victims of human trafficking. A child may have a change in behavior, and you may have an outgoing child that becomes withdrawn, an honor student that suddenly is not doing very well in school. I think a big red flag often that a parent or a caregiver might miss is a child saying they don't want to be with somebody else. They don't want to go with somebody. And I know I was certainly guilty of this as when my kids were younger as a parent. You know, I'm working, I'm busy. I got a ride for you to go to whatever activity or to be picked up. No, I don't want to go. Well, is it a real response because they just want mom or dad? Or is it because they don't want to be with that person? We just finished the holiday season, but having a child, you know, Uncle so-and-so just came in, go give him a hug and a kiss. No, I don't want to. Yes, you have to. Well, maybe there's a reason. And that also teaches, I know I'm digressing a little bit, but it teaches children appropriate boundaries as well, to be able to know that they can say, no, I don't want to kiss you. I don't want to touch you. And I think that that's really important for our kids as well.
It absolutely is. It is. Abbie, your center is located in Montgomery County, but there are children's advocacy centers all across Pennsylvania. Tell us how CACs receive referrals and what it looks like for families to begin that process.
Yeah, so there are 41 CACs, child advocacy centers, for the 67 counties in Pennsylvania. We're hoping that in maybe the not so distant future, maybe the remainder of the counties will have access to a CAC as well. You can tell I'm a big believer in how it helps children's family, the investigative process, everybody. The referrals will come into the CACs not from a family member. We don't take walk-ins, and that's because we do not want to take over the investigative process that police or children and youth service workers have. We are not that process. We facilitate the collaboration between those systems, and we are a part of that collaboration, but we are not taking over those roles. So reports will come into us. We will get a case after a report is usually made to Childline, and then the Childline will report it to either police or children and youth services in that county. When one of those professionals does their preliminary investigation and thinks that a child might be being sexually abused or seriously physically abused, depending on the CAC, or a witness to a violent crime or a homicide, they will then make that decision to continue their investigation, but step back from the actual one-on-one interview of the child, except for a minimal facts interview to make sure that that child is safe. At that point, then they call the CAC and we make an arrangement for them to come in, the child and the non-offending caregiver, as soon as reasonably possible that fits into both their schedule as well as the professional schedule. So it's a good time for everybody. And that's how they come in. That's where they come from. So.
That's great. I did not realize that you guys worked primarily through that pipeline. So really That's really great to know, and I'm sure it's really important for everyone watching to know that walk-ins, are not occurring in our communities across the state.
And sometimes we get phone calls, and what we do is we ask them what police jurisdiction. We have 50 police jurisdictions in Montgomery County. We'll ask, where are you? And we make sure to refer them to the appropriate police department, or we'll, if it's a teacher, to make a child line report, so that we direct them appropriately. But CACs, if I could use one word to describe us, it's collaboration. We collaborate. We are the kings of collaboration. We make sure that everybody works together, talks together. And why do we do that? Because it's in the best interest of the child and the non-offending family member, and the best interest of all the professionals' investigations. Instead of having black and white, everybody has shades of gray. And that's really what that child needs.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Your center also provides some prevention education and training. How can community members and groups access that aspect of your work?
Okay, so we do offer trainings that are specially geared for children ages 4 to 8 and teenagers 12 to 18, as well as trainings for professionals in the child abuse investigation field, educators, medical providers, social service providers, and general community trainings. Please visit our website, www.missionkidscac.org, MISSIONKIDSCAC.org, or please call our offices, 484-687-2990. Tell them that you want a training, and you will be transferred to the appropriate person, our education manager and outreach manager, and we'll make sure to get that set up.
So all that training is ready to go?
It's ready to go. We do it, we're ready to do it. We find ways to make sure that we reach as many agencies, community members, whoever is looking for the training. The best way to prevent it is to get that education out there.
Yep, you took the words right out of my mouth. Just about to say, prevention and education is the key.
How could you stop it, right?
Yes, exactly. Is there anything else? I know we crammed a lot of information into this tiny little session, for our e-newsletter and our social media, but it is Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And of course, we want to protect kids all year long. So is there anything else you want to share with folks viewing this?
Yeah, so the responses at child advocacy centers for commercial sexual exploitation can be a little bit different, because these children, as everybody knows, have so many needs because of the trauma that they've been through, the repeated trauma. We've had real success at Mission Kids in changing our policies and protocols to really wrap around these child victims, even more so than what I just explained in detail about other child sexual abuse victims. The victim advocate is really the linchpin of this response. We welcome calls and questions about that. Let us know if you have questions about how we change that response. And the state chapter of child advocacy centers, PennCAC, they will be releasing within the next couple of months a RFP for 5 counties to really get a lot of facilitative training in commercial sexual exploitation of children, and responses provided. So if anybody thinks it is a team response, we will be needing whole teams to respond. If anybody thinks that their county might be interested, please let me know. Happy to put you in touch with the appropriate people at the state chapter. Because again, the more education we get out there, and especially with trafficking, my feeling, we need a regional response. It really can't be county by county. Traffickers don't care about boundaries, so we can't have responses that stop at our county borders. So let's do this, Pennsylvania. Let's do it.
No, you're absolutely right. We love working with PennCAC. We've done a couple of things with them. And, like your individual, sort of collaborative approach there at Mission Kids, I know that that's their approach as well. And I had not heard about the RFP. So for the sake of...
This is like hot off the presses. It's not there yet, but
it's breaking news. So for the sake of...
But there it is. Too late.
For the sake of this video, perhaps living out there in internet land for so long, we are recording this in January of 2022. So if you're watching this 2 years from now in 2024, the RFP is long gone. So sorry you missed it.
Anyway, and we'll see what we can do to help.
That's wonderful. Well, Abbie, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to chat with us about the important resources there at Mission Kids and how everyone can watch for human trafficking warning signs and be strong, committed allies in their community. We look forward to chatting with you again in the future.
Thank you so much, Ashley, for having me. This is so important, and I really appreciate all the work that you are doing too.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.